Sorry, guys, just getting one last thing with my screen here sorted. All right, are we ready to go? Yeah, sweet. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at our Understanding the CTA webinar. My name is Victoria Monroe, and I am People First Economy's Community Engagement Manager. Today, we are thrilled to welcome presenter Nichole Sadek of Sadek Law. Nichole was raised by entrepreneurs and do-it-yourselfers. Her parents run a small business in her hometown, and she is also married to a small business owner who is part of a family of small business owners. So you could say that Nichole has a passion for helping the unsung heroes of the world, the small business, and the family unit. It didn't take long for Nichole to realize that law firms are actually no fun to work for, and viewing her days in 6-minute intervals was soul-sucking for everyone involved. And as a direct result of her discontent and intolerance for things that just don't work right, Sadek Law was founded with the mission of completely changing how people interact with legal services. So that's a little bit about Nichole, and today she's here to talk about the Corporate Transparency Act, which went into effect on January 1st of the year. This act requires businesses operating in the U.S. to submit comprehensive reports detailing their beneficial owners and company applicants. As an LLC or corporation, you are required to comply by the end of the year. So Nichole is here to provide clear, concise information and guidance to complying with these new regulations. Kathleen and I will be monitoring the chat for questions, so please feel free to pop those in there at any time. If they're urgent, we'll make sure that Nichole can answer those sooner than later. But additionally, there will be time at the end of the presentation for some real-time Q&A and going through the remainder of those questions. So thank you guys again so much for being here, and I'll pass the floor over to Nichole.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Victoria. That was great. So yeah, we're talking about CTA today, which is, sort of a terrible topic. It's very boring and nobody really likes it, but it matters to a lot of people. So I'm glad you guys all showed up and just to get a little bit of information. So there are like pages and pages of information on this act. So, and how to comply with it. So we're probably not gonna be able to cover everything, but we're trying, and our intent is to cover the most basic information that you might need, so that when you're seeing it online or hearing about it, you kind of know what we're talking about. So first step, what is it? What is the Corporate Transparency Act? It's passed in 2021. Had the goal of gathering information on companies in the US to assist in fighting financial crime. So, whether you think that they're going to be able to do that successfully or not is not really, that's not really what I'm here for, but so there's lots of feelings on this, like whether the government should or can or will be able to do any of this. That was the stated purpose behind the law. So that's why when you go to the website to fill out the report, you're doing it with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN. So that's why you see FinCEN on everything. In addition to that, it's the report that you have to file if you're a company in the United States is called the Beneficial Ownership Information Report. So that's the BOI. So if you hear FinCEN or BOI or CTA, we're all kind of talking about the same thing here. FinCEN, yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know on that part. Okay, so you are a reporting company. So who needs to be aware of this law? You're a reporting company if you're either corporation, LLC, or other entity created in the US. So anytime you file with any state government in the United States, in order to create some kind of entity, you're a reporting company. So that means under this CTA, you are considered somebody who needs to comply with this reporting requirement. Also, a foreign company registered to do business in a US state. So if you're a foreign company outside of the US, they have to file certificates to transact within the United States. So anytime you file one of those, then you're also subjecting yourself to CTA rules. So that's like pretty much everybody. There are some exceptions, and we'll go through that list in a second here. But the main question that I get on this regard is a lot of people operate as sole proprietors. So do they count as reporting companies? And that depends. So if you filed anything with your state, then yes, you do. Most states don't have a filing for sole proprietors, but some do. In Michigan, filing for an LLC, even if you're taxed as a sole proprietor, makes you a reporting company. So make sure that you know what your entity is. And that gets a little bit confusing if you're talking to a lawyer versus an accountant. If you're talking to an accountant and you have an LLC, they're going to tell you are a sole prop, because you are under the IRS. When the IRS looks at you, you're a sole proprietor. But if you have an actual legal entity filed in the state of Michigan, you are an entity that would have to report. So be careful when you start using terms like sole prop and LLC. Just if you have questions on that, let me know. But it can get a little confusing depending on who you're talking to. But the rule of thumb, again, if you filed something with any state that organizes any kind of entity, then you're a reporting company. So we have some exceptions here. I'm going to show you the long list they give you on the FinCEN website. Most importantly, right, tax exempt entity, that's one that hits a lot of people. But if you're on this list or potentially on this list, or maybe could be on this list, subsidiary, right, this kind of thing, that would be a good reason to call an attorney to do this for you. If you're not on this list and you're a single member LLC or a simple corporation, or something that's not too complicated, most of the time you can probably handle the report yourself. And so the rest of the time we'll kind of talk about what you need to do. But I just provided this just so that you have an idea of who is exempted, but it's kind of specific, right, to very specific industries or entities. So in most cases, you're probably not exempted. So what do you need to know? Or what do you need to do? Here we go. Report your beneficial owners to FinCEN. That's the big thing. So you have to, when you file this report, you have to first include your company information, but then the main purpose is to report your beneficial owner. So then the question is, well, what's a beneficial owner? So this is easy if your entity is easy and simple and just a couple members or something. If you have a complicated structure, this is where it gets complicated. And again, you might want to call an attorney, but a beneficial owner is basically anybody who either directly or indirectly exercises substantial control over the company or owns 25% of the company's interests. So what is exercising substantial control? That is senior officers, presidents, chief financial officers, those kinds of people. Even if they don't have any equity in the company, they would be considered a beneficial owner because they exercise substantial control. Anyone who's an important decision maker of the company. So sometimes LLCs are set up so that the LLC is managed by a manager who is not a member of the LLC. That manager may or may not be considered a beneficial owner. That may need to be reported. So that's what I said. If you're like a single member LLC, like you're the owner, like you are it, right? You're all that needs to go on that beneficial owner report. But for other people, if you have other decision makers in your company, it might be good to clear it real quick. Okay, who's considered a beneficial owner that I need to report and who isn't? So that might be something to ask an attorney, but generally, key phrase there is individual who exercises substantial control. All right, so when do I need to do this by? Because the law is new, we have some time to comply with it. By the first deadline here is if your business started before this year, so January 1st this year, anything organized in any state before that time frame, you have until the end of 2024 to report. But because the law was effective as of January 1st this year, anything registered after that, your timeline is shorter. So if you filed your articles of organization or articles of incorporation January 1st of this year or beyond, you have 90 days from the registration with the state in order to file this report with FinCEN. So if it was January or February, like you might already be past that deadline. So that's why it's kind of important to keep having this conversation. The newer business owners, you have quicker compliance. By the time we get to 2025, if this statute is still around, we will only have 30 days to comply. So basically, as soon as you file the articles of organization or whatever with your state, you have 30 days to fill out this report. And so that's an important deadline to keep in mind going forward. What if you don't, right? Who cares? What if do I have to actually do this? If you don't file the report, the stated fines right now are $500 per day that you are out of compliance. So that's why I've been making a bunch of noise about it, because a lot of new companies might already be coming up on that deadline and might not know what to do about it. But then there's going to be like millions of companies by next year who have until the end of 2024 to do this. And if they haven't done it, we're going to see some pretty massive fines for those people. And that's just too much for a lot of small companies to be able to bear. So that's why we're talking about it. So those are your deadlines. If you're an older company, you've got all year. If you're a newer company, as of this year or beyond, you have 90 days. If you start anything in 2025, you got 30 days, okay? So how do I report? This is the site, the screenshot of where you need to go. There's a link here, but in the resources that you'll get, there's also several links that you can click on to make sure that you get to this part. You can also just Google BOI CTA, right? And it'll take you to the FinCEN website. Make sure you're at Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That's the important website there. Like that's who's administering this report. So you get to this page and you can process it online. So you see the web thing here. You can prepare and submit the BOI online. This is not hard, right? So we've already talked about some of the criteria. Who's a company that has to apply? Who are beneficial owners? If you kind of have that down, right? If you're a very simple organization, you can fill out this report on your own. You don't probably need an attorney. If you have any complicated structure, then you might need to ask somebody for some help. But really the report is just filling out, as long as you know the definitions, right? Who a beneficial owner is and who needs to put in their information. The rest of the report is essentially just filling out the contact information for those people. So what information do you need when you're going into this report? You're going to have your business name. That's going to include any additional certificate of assumed names or DBAs that you go by. That all has to be listed in the report. Your tax ID, so if you have an EIN or social security number associated with your company. Street address, this is going to be the place of business. That's how they define it. So they don't allow PO boxes. It's basically wherever your business is run out of. And so this is the part just where I can say, and we'll see what we think about this as we go on. But the street address that a lot of people use is their home address because they're running an online business or something. And there's always a concern. Is this going to be public information, right? No, the BOI report and anything that you submit to FinCEN is supposed to be for law enforcement use only. So it actually has to be subpoenaed to get any of that information. It's not available publicly. So unlike when you file your articles with the state, if you put your address on that's going to be public facing, right? Anybody can look up on Lara and see what the address is associated with your company. But for the BOI, they want it to be the actual address the operation is coming out of. And so that means that it might be your residential address, but it's going to be in a secure system, right? Whatever, if you trust the federal government or not, that's up to you, but it's supposed to be in a secure system where the addresses aren't going to be available to the public. So then you'll need your company applicant info. So this one is a little bit complicated. The company applicant going forward from this year on is basically the person, which is usually a lawyer or an accountant, who actually filed or did any assistance in filing the initial articles with the state. So whatever you filed with the state to organize your entity, whoever helped you with that, they're considered the company applicant. You only need this information for people who are registering as of this year. Past years, if your company was started in years previous to 2024, you do not need this company applicant information. They are not requiring you to go back and track down that person. They are just saying for any new companies as of this year and beyond, we want that applicant's information. So for my clients, that's going to be me, right? My name, my address, my date of birth, my driver's license. Beneficial owner information. So again, whoever the beneficial owner is, that's going to be the person that we're going to include in that part of the report, their address, etc. And then a copy of the beneficial owner ID, either their driver's license or passport, and then an email address for whoever is submitting the application or the report. So you get to this main page, you click on this right here, file using BOI filing system, takes you to another page here that shows you e-filing, right? Wherever it says e-filing for BOI, BSA, not the same thing. We're looking at BOI, so click on get started there. And that takes us to select the filing method that works best for you. Again, web, you can prepare and submit the BOI online. You can fill out the PDF and send it in. I have actually not done that, but some people, prefer to do it that method. They'll provide you with an address and all that you have to send it to. But you can do it online. And so that's the way most people have been doing it. So you get to this part, you're going to get a disclaimer here, right? This information is to be used for authorized purposes only, right? So it's a disclaimer here. You click I agree to get through to the next part, and then you'll get to the main pages here for, oops, sorry, that's the wrong place to put that. This is the main tabs for the report. So you got to fill out each one of these sections up here. The first tab is just filing information. So what kind of filing are you doing? Most people are doing an initial report. So if you haven't ever filed a BOIR before, you're clicking initial report. If you have screwed it up, right, you need to correct one, or you have change in information on a previous one, then you do the update prior report. So most people are falling under filing an initial report right now. I moved my screen around. There we go. So once you get that initial part done, I'm just going to move this out of the way. It's too big. Okay, there we go. You get to the reporting company. You can request a FinCEN ID for your reporting company if you want to. That just means next time you go to file an updated report, you can just type in that ID and you don't have to put all the company's information in. You can do that if you want. It's not required. If you don't want to do it, just skip that checkbox, but then it's going to take you to the reporting company if you scroll down, the legal name. So I put just an example in here, right? My legal name of a company, and then any alternate names you use, you can add additional alternate names if you have more than one. And then you keep scrolling down and you're going to have to do tax identification. So you usually select EIN or social security number. Then you actually type that in. Then it's blurred out if it's a foreign tax ID only. Then you keep scrolling down and you get to the next part and you have jurisdiction, so United States. Where were your articles filed? Whether they're articles of incorporation or of organization, what state is your LLC or corporation running out of? Michigan or tribal, right? Describe the name of the tribe if that's the case. Most people are going to do state of formation, and it's going to be Michigan if it's here, or whatever other state you're organized in for that company. Keep scrolling down, next part. Last part here actually is the address. So this is the current US address where your company is operating out of. Again, this might be some people's residential address, if that's where they're running their company out of. Then you hit next, and it takes you to the next part of the report, company applicant. So again, this is the part, company applicants are the people who actually help you file your documents with the state. It's trying to capture lawyers, accountants, or other fiduciary people who are doing the paperwork on behalf of people. The FinCEN wants to collect that information as well, only for new companies. So if you're an existing reporting company, which means you were around as of January 1st, 2024, you click this button and it skips you through that part. If you're a new company as of January 1st, 2024, you can't select that. You got to put in your company applicant, which is whoever assisted you in filing the articles. If that's nobody, then you just put in yourself. Again, you're the company applicant, you're the one that did it, right? So if you did have a person assist you, then you're going to have to put in that person's information, address, etc. So if you check the box though, it's going to disable all the company applicant fields. So it's just going to warn you, hey, this means that you don't have to fill out anything for the company applicant, right? Do you want to continue? Yes. If not, right, company applicants will often have FinCEN IDs. So you can also just type that in. They might provide that to you so that they do not have to give you all of their contact information, driver's license, etc. So that's what a lot of company applicants are doing, like myself. If I'm filling out articles for somebody, that person has to go file a BOI report. They come back to me and say, you're my company applicant. What am I supposed to put? FinCEN ID, I can list right there. It automatically connects the report to my FinCEN account, which shows all of the information that the government would need from me. So that's an easy way to kind of keep it a little bit more anonymous for people who have a lot of clients that are filing these reports and they need to be included in them. So then once you're through the company applicant part, the last part and kind of the most time-consuming part is this beneficial owner section. You have to do it for each one, right? So if you have 4 members of the LLC, they're all decision makers. They all have 25% or more, let's say. then you have to do 4 different beneficial owners. And so if you click add, it'll show beneficial owner number 1, and then it'll pop up with another one, beneficial owner number 2, number 3, number 4, etc., however many are required. But either way, you fill out the same information for each beneficial owner, respective to that person, that individual. So here's some of the information you have to put in. Again, can be a FinCEN ID if they sign up for that. Otherwise, you can skip that. If it's an exempt entity, you can click that and skip that portion. Otherwise, you're putting in your name, right? Last name, first name, middle initial. Now you all know how old I am. So date of birth, and then a residential address for that person. Now, this is my business address because none of you need to know my residential address, but you would put that beneficial owner's residential address in this section. State, zip, all that stuff. Then identifying document. Most of the time, this is going to be a driver's license, but it can be a passport or some other issued government ID. Got to put the ID number, where the country is, and what state issued, what jurisdiction issued that ID. Then you actually have to upload it. So make sure that you have that ready. I have heard some people say if they do this on their phone and they don't have this section ready yet, and they wait and come back to it later, then they have to start all over. So it's best just to have it, and then you can click right here and get it right in, so you don't have to worry about redoing the report. But that's everything that you need for that beneficial owner stage. Now, just again, as a reminder, if we go back to this one right here, you have to do that for each beneficial owner. So there's 2, you gotta do it twice, 1 for each person, all that information relevant for that person. Otherwise, you're doing it just, for however many you have, you gotta fill in all that info. So the last section then is the submit button. You're going to put the email in of who actually did the BOI report, right? And then there's a little I agree button down there that you're going to select in a confirmation email. Make sure that you have that confirmation email right if it's you or whoever's doing the report on your behalf, because that's where you're going to get a confirmation email saying that it's been applied. And then after you submit this button, it will take you to a screen that is like a confirmation sheet. I highly recommend that you print that. And there's a button down there to click to say, I want to print this, right? Confirmation. And it gives you a confirmation number and all of the information that was submitted in the report, which is really helpful because then later on down the road, if you need to update the report, you know at least what's on the current report, what's currently been reported. So the last piece that I should talk about, which I don't actually have a slide on, is how often do you have to do this? This is not an annual requirement. Once you file the report for your company the first time, that's all you have to do until information needs to be updated. So if your address for your business changes, if you add another beneficial owner to the company, if you sell the company, if the company dissolves, right? So anything that's kind of substantially changing, anything reported on this BOIR, you have to file another one, and that's where you would click on that updated report way back at the beginning. And you would go through the same process and just update the information, and then you get another confirmation, right, with all of the new information. I highly recommend keeping that, right, printing off the PDF, sticking it in a folder somewhere, or saving it into a folder that you can find it later on, just so that you have it for compliance purposes. So that's all the main info. And here's just our contact information if you need it. Let's see, I have.
Amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Nicole. And we have a great link to pop in the chat, Kathleen. I'll make sure to include that in the follow-ups. But we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A that we can go through. And also, if you think of any other questions, or you want to pop anything in there, now is the time to do it as we're going through these first 2. So the first one that came through is, have the court challenges been resolved so the reporting deadlines are final?
No, there's only been 1 lawsuit and it hasn't been resolved yet. So you'll get a lot of different information on where this is going from a lot of different attorneys, depending on how they feel about it, right? Some feel very strongly about it, some don't. But from what I can tell, this law has been in the making for like a decade. So they've been working on it for a long time, and it's been passed, and there is some kickback, but not nearly as much as you see in other circumstances that are similar. So my guess, if I had a crystal ball, right, that I could tell people, what was going to happen, I think it's probably sticking around. But that's one attorney's, position on it, and nobody really knows. Who knows what could happen with it. But for right now, I'm telling all of my clients, if you're a new company as of this year, you have to, the law is there, right? You have to comply. Like, there is no way around it. If you're an older company who existed before 2024, you can wait it out, right? And see what happens this year, see if anything gets overturned by the end of the year. But by 2025, like, the law is the law, and if it hasn't been overturned, you got to comply. So it's better just to assume compliance, and if that means hitting your deadlines properly, then you don't have a fine, great, right? Rather than saying, oh, it's probably going to be overturned, I'm not going to worry about it, and then having the deadline sneak up on you, and now you owe the government a bunch of money, right? So I would say assume that it's going to stick around until you hear otherwise.
The next one is, should your company applicant match your registered agent or not necessarily?
No, they don't have to. And this can get kind of tricky because I know that a lot of organizations that offer registered agent services also offer the initial filing, right? They'll file your articles for you and act as your resident agent. They don't have to be the same person. They can be, but your company applicant, they're kind of two different things. So a registered agent with the state is somebody that is designated as a person that can collect service on behalf of your company if you get sued. So there's state laws, they're all very similar across the United States, that say you have to have a specific person or entity and an actual street address listed on your LLC or corporation documents so that you can be served. So that, because we can't sue an invisible entity, we have to give actual legal papers to a person at a place. And so that's why we have registered agents in every state. So that's kind of a separate state-based law that you have to have just to file your articles. On the other side, a company applicant is just an attempt by FinCEN to collect information on the person who filed for you. So it could have been you, right? You could have filed your own articles, in which case your registered agent might be somebody completely different. A lot of people, they file their articles on their own and they serve as their own registered agent, in which case they're going to be the same, but they do not have to be the same. They're kind of two different roles.
Great. And then next one sounds like a bit of a clarification. You said if the business is closed / discontinued, they need to file an update, correct?
Yes, this gets a little bit tricky, honestly, because there's exemptions for filing a report if you have been inactive for a certain period of time too. So, but if the company is closed down or usually if it's like sold, right? So if it's sold, then the updated information has to be a little bit different because now the company still exists, right? But it has new beneficial owners. But if it's closed or discontinued, I mean, those two words are different. If it's closed down, right, then it's inactive, and you probably need to file an updated report showing that the company no longer exists. Discontinued, I mean, it just depends. So most likely, yes, you will have to file a report. However, it depends on whether the company has been active for a long period of time right up until that closure. It's just a little bit tricky on timing. So that one would be probably a really good conversation to have on a more like specific fact basis, so I could give you a true answer, because it's really dependent on what's going on.
Great. This next one sounds like it could be very relevant and important, especially for this area. If you are not a resident, can you use your country's passport?
Yes, so if you are the beneficial owner, I'm assuming that's what you mean, you're trying to file this report for your organization, and you have to put your own information in there as the beneficial owner. It just requires some kind of legal ID, right? So passport is an option. You can select the passport, but underneath of that, actually, I can probably go back to it where that screen was. Underneath of where you submit that, right here, identifying document type, you can put in passport and your identifying passport number. Country and jurisdiction, that's where you're going to select the country from which the passport was originated. So you can do that. And if you have a license or an ID that's associated with a different country, but that's your main form of identification, then that's what you're gonna put in this So it doesn't require United States ID or any specific state ID.
Great. Well, those were the rest of the questions that were left in the chat. I'll give it just a few more seconds as we're closing out here in case anything kind of filters in. But you guys all saw Nichole's contact information. We highly encourage you to connect with her if you're looking for more support on a one-on-one basis, and we'll make sure to distribute this recording as well afterwards. But yeah, if there's anything, like, Nichole, do you have anything else that you'd like to add before I close this
Yeah,
out?
I mean, I know that this is a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, and I work with small businesses, so I'm seeing this all day, every day with everybody. If you are confused or have questions, like, feel free to email me. Email address is available, I'm sure, in some of our resources, but you can go to our website. We have a link on the top of our website where if you fill out the form, we'll just submit the report for you just to make sure that it's done correctly. It kind of walks you through a lot of the things we talked about today so that you know for sure whether you're falling into beneficial owner or, you know, if everybody's falling into certain categories so that you know for sure that it's getting done properly. That's something that we offer for free for people, because I'm worried that people just aren't going to do it. Like, I really don't want my clients or people that I care about or businesses in my community to just start getting fined, you know, $500 a day. Like, that's absurd. So we're happy to help out if you need it. But it's not something to be too worried about. You know, the actual reporting part is pretty simple once you kind of have the lingo down, I think.
Amazing. Looks like maybe one more thing got popped in. Oh, wait, just a thank you. Thank you very much, Nichole and PFE.
Hopefully this is helpful.
Thank you for permission. Lots of thank yous, lots of praise. Wonderful. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. I'll close out with just a few announcements on our end. So People First Economy is thrilled to be continuing these educational event styles and ensuring that we're able to provide the best resources that would benefit the businesses in our network. We do have a few more upcoming opportunities to get engaged with. First, our next coffee hour is coming up on Friday, June 14, from 9 to 10 a.m. at the Arts Marketplace at Studio Park. We'd love if you came and join us for this casual networking opportunity with great coffee and even better conversation. We also have a local first in-person workshop coming up on June 26th called The Secret to a Thriving Small Business Culture with Dr. Jeff Doolittle. This opportunity is best for decision makers, leaders, and culture builders of the organization or business, as it will discuss identifying current culture and values, designing the culture you want, and implementing high-impact, low-cost solutions, and lots more. So we're super excited to bring him in for that, and you can head over to our website or social media to learn more and secure your seat. Finally, People First Economy is part of a collaborative for supporting capital access for small business. Currently, we are partnering with technical assistance organizations across the state to support businesses interested in employee ownership. So if this is you and if you're interested in applying and learning more, please contact a member of our team or visit peoplefirsteconomy.org/SSBCI. So there's just some upcoming things going on with PFE. And finally, we'll be following up with resources and a blog feature for this workshop, as well as like a one-pager from Nichole that you can reference in the future and pass it on to anybody in your network that you think would also benefit from this information. So thank you again so much, Nichole, for leading us through this impactful webinar. It's very important information that will continue to support our business community present on this call and beyond. So thank you very much.
Great.